Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. Returning listeners, great to have you back. New to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. You picked a great episode to join us on. We have Shanna Truffini, who is the developer, author, and I guess administrator is the right way to think about it, of the program You Are a Gardener. And she developed this program as a way to communicate and help her kids deal with things that she needed to deal with, and she is an awesome lady. She does a great job of presenting these topics, and she has such a great approach to helping kids and adults kind of learn how to value the things that are important in their life and cope with the things that aren't the way they want them in your life. So awesome lady. We're super lucky to have her. Really glad she agreed to be on the podcast. Let's bring her on now. Shanna, thank you so much for joining us here on Salty Ginger Talk.
Thank you, Joe, for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a couple months now.
Me too. Yeah, we had a great conversation a couple months ago, and I am really excited. I think your approach will resonate really well with our audience, and I love the story, which I'm hoping we can start off with to walk through kind of what got you from where you were to where you're at. Because that's when you think about our podcast, when we talk about our podcast, we just want people to live a life with purpose. They get to choose whatever, like whatever it is, doesn't matter to us. If you want to be a ballerina, awesome. If you want to be an
Yeah.
attorney, awesome. We don't care. But you should be trying to be the best ballerina or the best attorney you can. And I think your program that you've developed really is helpful, especially starting with kids. I think it's something that can be implemented throughout a life, and I'm really excited about you sharing that with our guests. So, with that, if you wouldn't mind just doing a brief background, where you grew up, how your family life was, blah blah blah, just basic stuff, and kind of walk us through broad strokes. Then what we do is go back and do deep dives on what you consider critical moments and what you learn in those critical moments. So,
Okay, good. If I jump around or you want me to go back somewhere, just pull me back and we'll just
it's your
from the
show. We're here to listen. Yeah, we're here to listen to you. Do what you feel comfortable
Sure.
with.
Sure. So I'll give you some roots of You Are a Gardener. That is my company, that is my brand, that is my children's book. And You Are a Gardener was inspired by my own children when they were 5 and 7, Anna and Aiden. And Anna and Aiden now 14 and 16 years old. But when they were younger, we encountered an unforeseen event which introduced a tremendous amount of stress into our household. And my daughter especially, just had a lot of what we call weeds at the time, and they were taking root, which were really interfering in her daily life of feeling good as a kid, and navigating just a typical day was just a little more challenging for her. So we tried all sorts of stuff, from cognitive behavioral therapy to yoga, meditation, homeopathy, but we really weren't getting to the root of her stress. And a colleague of mine compared one day stress and anxiety to watering weeds. And that was my genuine light bulb moment. That is where the roots of everything we're doing now actually just started. And that night, I sat my children down and I just said, "Do you guys know your gardeners?" And all of this information just started to flow to me. And I communicated with my kids that we're gardeners with a garden of emotions growing inside of ourselves. And in our gardens, our flowers are our joy and our happy thoughts, and our weeds are our stress, challenges, struggles. And I just said, "Do you guys have any weeds today?" And they were little and they're like, "Oh, this happened and this happened in school." And as we started to talk about these things, I could see their shoulders softening. They were breathing a little easier. They were feeling empowered. And I still get the chills when I tell this part of the story, because that's how genuine it was. And I just kind of stepped back and I was like, wow, we don't talk like this as a family every day. We talk about who they had lunch with, what songs they learned in music class, bath time, dinner, sports, games. It was never, "Hey, what happened today to you that stressed you out?" And as children, they encounter quite a bit, especially at school when they're away from home. There's a lot that they see and experience that causes them to have stressful thoughts and uncomfortable encounters. So that night, I was so inspired by our conversation. I sat down, I wrote a poem called You Are a Gardener, and how that moment started to change our lives is what we started gardening every day. We started talking about our weeds and our flowers, the things we were grateful for. And as we started to communicate on that level, my daughter started to feel better. I started to feel better. And we were really kind of getting to the root of those tender little weeds so that we could kind of make room for space to feel good and be in more of a space of gratitude and connection. So, what started out as a book for our family and how that really changed our lives in such a short amount of time is what inspired me to self publish it, to get it out there. And naturally, it just started taking root in schools. And I was connecting with my children's teachers when they were younger. They were very supportive. And so we would gently do little ways to incorporate the You Are Gardener mindset into the classrooms for my kids to empower them. And we just found that with my kids using the vocabulary and the mindset at home and the teachers reinforcing it in school, it was incredibly empowering. And that's really how this all took root. It was about 8 years ago. And that's what got me to this point now. And we do school assemblies, we do community events. When I say we, it's myself and my children. We do so much of this together. We are incredibly passionate about getting out there and cultivating and spreading seeds of emotional empowerment. So that's the roots of You Are a Gardener, but we are growing and we have a lot of fun things going on too.
That is awesome. What did you do before this? Were you working in the corporate world? Were you staying home taking care of your family? What'd you do?
Now, that's a great question. Thank you. So, and I'm still doing this. So, 23 years ago, I started working at a clothing boutique and I had just graduated college, a little unsure of where I was growing at the time. And I connected with the owner of this boutique. We had this instant connection and chemistry. And for the last 24 years, I started in the back office and kind of worked my way into the company, taking on all sorts of roles and responsibilities. And it evolved into the COO of the company. So I do that still. I do it part time. I did it full time until 2020, then doing that part time. But a lot of what I do for that company is a lot of advertising, marketing, social media, hiring, training, system structure. So I really was able to plunk a lot of that formula into You Are a Gardener because I had that background of content creating and promoting and putting it out there and pulling it all together and always trying to learn new techniques and technology because being a small business, there's not always a lot of fun. So I was just doing a lot of research on my own end. So I learned a lot of fun stuff. I jack of all trades, master of none, but that really did help me when it came to putting my stuff out there. There were just a lot of experience to push that forward. So
Yeah, it's such a cool thing, and we see this it's a very common thing with a lot of our guests. And we're very fortunate. We attract really high caliber people to the
yeah,
podcast, and they do such a good job of explaining how they got to where they're at.
yeah,
And it's never ever linear. And
yeah,
a lot of times they talk about stuff that they just did because they needed to do something
yeah,
and they didn't know where it was going to take them. So I love hearing you talk about starting with little boutique and then working in every part of the business, working up to a leadership role in that business, not knowing that it was going to position you perfectly for what it is that you're doing now, but you're able to draw on so much of that experience because you took action. And that's one of the things we preach on the podcast is that action almost always is better than inaction. Now, if you're crossing the street, maybe inaction is good. Right?
yeah.
You want to
Right,
look for
right.
cars and
Yeah.
make sure. But in the world, it's almost always better to take action because even if it leads you down a path that isn't the path you want to go down permanently, at least you can eliminate that. You learn something from it, and it puts you in a better spot. So I love that you had that similar experience and shared that. Another thing I found very interesting. You're not a gardener, right?
Not at all. I mean, and I'm really not a gardener. Both of my parents are real gardeners, but I that's not of interest to me. I don't have a green thumb. Maybe I will one day, but literally, I am definitely not a gardener, and people find that very unusual. But it's
I find it
it's
amusing, but like, yeah, but like it resonated with your kids. And so by finding something that resonated with your kids, that's one of the things we talk about on the podcast all the time. There's no one right way. Like my way works for me, but I'm a little bit of a psycho. And so my way is not probably good for a lot of people. And so that's one of the things we try to do on the podcast is have a whole bunch of different people with a whole bunch of different approaches that have worked for them, so that if my way doesn't resonate, fine. I'm not telling you my way is the right way. I'm telling you my way is a way.
Yeah.
But like, I love the fact that your way really worked, and it wasn't something that, like, hey, I was out working in my garden and it occurred to me that this would be great for my kids. Like, this just came out of the blue, but you recognized it and you built it into what you have going on now. So I love that part
Thank
of the
you. Well, I
story.
mean, gardening vocabulary is such a beautiful, gentle introduction, and making the comparison to emotions, it really resonates with I say gardeners of all ages. So it's just a very natural, easy way, and there's just lots of fun ways to use the vocabulary. And a big part of You Are a Gardener and our foundation are gardening tools, and that's really those coping tools that we connect with to help ourselves feel good, to feel confident, creative, and calm. So, and that's when, circling back to what you're talking about, purpose and action, that's what our gardening tools are. So it's whether it's journaling, deep breathing, cooking, baking, crafting, whatever those activities we're doing that's keeping us in a mindful, creative, calm state, those are our gardening tools. And that's just so much of what we do and what we're putting out there right now with our content, is empowering gardeners of all ages. And I can say that now because we're all growing together emotionally. Emotional growth never stops growing. So it's really introducing our community to new gardening tools all the time, and myself and my kids. So those are those action items that help us, stay centered and feeling good.
Yeah, I love that. Can you kind of give us the broad strokes of the program that you're working on, or
Yeah.
sorry, a better way to say it is what you're doing now? I know it iterates, and I know that you'll keep iterating as you learn and grow. And I love that you
Right.
talked about that, because like none of us are ever done. We don't ever get to cross the
Never.
goal line and spike the football and do our touchdown dance. It never ends, right?
Never. All seasons, all season long. We are always emotionally growing, and the beautiful world we live in now, there's so much to connect with. There's so much information. There's so many things we can utilize to help ourselves. I'm always saying feel confident, creative, and calm. Those are the three C's of gardening. Those are really the roots, is always trying to get back to one of those three states of mind, because when we're feeling confident, we're feeling good, we're feeling grounded. When we're feeling creative, we're flowing, we're focusing on what's in front of us. And when we're feeling calm, we're centered. So being all three is wonderful, but just trying to get back to one of those is really what we strive for as gardeners. And there's a lot that comes at us every single day, that always there's weeds every day. No matter what, we can't avoid the weeds. So always trying to get back to that center is really important. But to answer what you were just asking, so I do have a blog called the Pull Your Weeds blog. And like I said, we put out 2 to 3 new posts every week. And that content is always rooted in, a new gardening tool, whether it's vision boards, and trying to help gardeners of all ages connect with that. So little kids can make a vision board, but adults can make a vision board too. That's goal setting, setting goals, planting your dreams. I'm just giving you one example, but we do put that on the blog post, and then we will promote it in our weekly newsletter. And then in between that, we are going to schools and doing assemblies and connecting with younger kids. Right now, our programs are tailored for kindergarten through 8th grade. But again, as my children grow, as I grow, this is really growing with us, and the message is becoming more and more ageless. So I am currently finishing up a brand new book. It's the grown-up edition of You Are a Gardener. It's going to be a couple hundred pages. It really digs into everything we're talking about. And my hopes is that it can kind of connect with a more mature audience that really could use some tools right now. I think a lot of gardeners need some tools, myself included. I'm always searching for new tools and digging into being the best version we can be, but being patient with ourselves along the way, and knowing how important emotional growth and empowerment is right now, and turning it back to ourselves and looking at ourselves and how we can be gentle with the growth and take the time and kind of clear out the noise and start within, and then let it ripple outward. And my hopes is just it will be a part of a positive change that this world is desperately needing right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like technology is great. Technology is enabling us right now to do what we're doing, to have this conversation. So I'm not anti-technology in any way, shape, or form. I jokingly say that other than mailing bombs to people, the Unabomber got a lot of stuff right. Like he was like he did not like the way society was headed with technology. He felt like it was going to disconnect people more than it was going to connect people, and it was going to divide people more than it would unite people. And man, it's like I know he was crazy, and I'm not just before anyone writes me a bunch of crazy stuff, I'm not endorsing the Unabomber or saying he was a good guy. However, he was very intelligent, and in his writings, he got a lot of that stuff right. And the stuff Shanna's talking about, especially with kids, like my kids are old now. My youngest just got engaged, and he's 20. He'll be 26 in January, and so I didn't have to deal with all the social media and stuff that's out there now, but kind of this constant, it's almost like the ocean where it's one wave after another. It's relentless and it's never ending. It's got to be tough for parents. I don't know how I would handle that because I didn't have to handle it. And it's one of the things but parents ask me for advice because we've been together a long time and my kids turned out, I always say they got the right things wrong with them. We don't have drug abusers. They're respectful to women. I have three boys. They hold down jobs. They're good guys. And I always tell them, yeah, I got advice. Don't listen to other parents. Like, I don't know your kids. I don't know what your kids need. That's your gig. Like, you
Yeah.
just want to be respectful and make sure you can communicate with them. They should always feel comfortable talking to you. That's the only thing I
Always.
tell them is just you got to open, they got to feel
Communicate.
comfortable saying anything to you because you don't know what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my question for you. So, you've got flowers, which are, let's call them, I try to avoid good and bad, but for the purposes of this conversation, let's say flowers are the things you want to emphasize and have more of in your garden. And weeds are
Joy.
the things you want to pull and get rid of in your garden to the extent that that's possible. Where do you start with people, or where do you suggest that people start? Should they start with focusing on the flowers, or should they start with focusing and dealing with the weeds?
Both. It happens simultaneously. And I find that, and this is just a tool that works really well for me and my children, and I emphasize it a lot, is gratitude and being grateful. It takes our mind off of the things we can't control, like we're focusing on things that happened in the past or worrying about things in the future. That's where most weeds live, really. They live in that fearful state of things you can't control. But when you're in a space of gratitude and appreciating your flowers, the joy, the good feelings, that brings us back to a mindful state in the center, in the present, and we can kind of just not look at the weeds. And I always tell my kids and myself and of gardeners of all ages that I meet, weeds are going to happen every day. Some weeds are always going to stay with us. Some weeds you just can't erase. And so it's really about finding that balance every day. Sometimes it's every minute and every hour. It's really kind of looking at your thoughts, feeling what you're feeling, communicating when you can. I'm such a big believer in, communication is key at all ages, and educating kids when they're younger how important it is to talk to trusted sources about their feeling is incredibly empowering. The younger we can educate kids on that, I think is really going to be very helpful and powerful. And but for adults too, we really need to find those trusted sources of who we can connect with, and it does help. So when you say what comes first, flowers or weeds, it's just a constant cycle of, you can't always talk to somebody about what you're growing through, and maybe you don't want to at all times. So that's when you have to find those gardening tools. What can I do right now? Sometimes it's just taking 3 or 4 deep breaths, which is also a powerful gardening tool. I always teach kids some deep breathing exercises at an assembly. It just scientifically has been proven to instantly calm you down. So there's tons of tools out there. So it's finding the tools that work for you, that you connect with. It's always trying new things, whether you like to cook or you like to garden or you like to exercise. It's just pushing yourself a little bit more to explore new activities and skills that you want to develop, even if it's just coloring or playing mahjong, whatever. Just explore, constantly explore, because the more we can relate and connect with things that help us feel confident, help us feel creative, help us feel calm, that's when you're going to get that more centered self. We can't avoid the weeds. Like I said, some weeds are always going to grow inside, but we can find that process as a gardener to just keep flowing every day and trying to come back to that center.
Yeah, it's so true. We haven't aired this episode yet, but we recorded an episode, I think it was last week, with an awesome lady out in Portland. And she had been a nurse. And like she had been an ER nurse, she had been a trauma nurse in battle. She was in the Air
Wow.
Force.
Yeah.
And then she suffered a brain injury and kind of had to relearn a lot of stuff. And it really kind of upended her life.
Yeah.
And they told her, because she was very process driven and process oriented, to start looking for creative things. And they told her to start coloring. And she hated the, because like, she was very funny. She's like, I'm a grown ass woman. I'm not coloring. But she
Yeah.
saw a YouTube video on a woman that did painting. It's very similar to like how Jackson Pollock used paint, and that
Right.
resonated with her. So she went and got paint, and she now has a business. She's an artist full time. And it
So
led her down
incredible.
this road simply because she was looking, like you just talked about, she was looking for a tool to deal with a
Yeah.
really shitty event that happened in her life. And now she's kind of built her life around this thing that has all this meaning and significance to her. And you just don't know. You just don't know what's going to resonate with you. And
No.
I
Well,
love that.
that's a weeds to seeds story right there. I mean, I always say you grow through what you go through. And that's what, as gardeners, we have to accept that. This is challenging. This is really, really hard. But if I can find the most positive way forward, there's so much growth there. And I always, when I'm talking to kids, it's uncomfortable. I get it. And it's hard. Some things are hard. Some things are scary. But if you can identify that and name what you're feeling, whether you talk about it or you do some deep breathing, that is the most empowering thing we can do, is that recognition, communication, and the action. So that's a beautiful story, by the way, and I will
Yeah,
definitely be tuning into that episode. That's incredibly inspiring. Good for her.
she's an awesome lady. Her name's Cherie. She's just got such a great energy about her, because there were things that, like, you could choose. Like, she had legitimate reasons to say, hey, this really sucks, I got a raw deal here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
instead she found her way through it because she kept taking action. So it was really good stuff. But I love the breathing. I did not know this. It's kind of dumb luck. This is the typical a broken clock is right twice a day situation. I went through college on a baseball scholarship, and I learned when I was about 14 or 15 that if I took what I called a cleansing breath, before I was a pitcher, but before every pitch, I took what I called a cleansing breath, just a deep breath in through my nose, and then a big exhale out.
Hmm.
And then I would get ready to pitch. I
Yeah.
had no idea that I was stimulating the vagus nerve in my neck, stimulating my brain, engaging my
Hmm.
parasympathetic nervous system, all of which was true, which was, but I had no clue. Like, it was just dumb luck
Natural.
on
Yeah.
my part. But talk a little bit more about the breathing. That's such a powerful tool that most people don't understand they have available to them.
And you forget about it a lot. Like you said, it's something that you have to remember to do. You have to be consistent with it. But and just breaking it down to little kids is we naturally breathe in and out. We don't think about it. That's a wonderful thing. But I always say, does somebody ever say, calm down, take a breath? It's very powerful advice. So it's finding those moments to just 3, 4, 5 times, take those deep breaths, and you just feel it's centered and you're taking your mind off of everything else and you're focusing on your breathing. So then again, you're being mindful, you're in that present state. It's empowering. And teaching kids when they're younger how empowering that is. I mean, that's really cool. So I'll try and do a little flower breathing exercise with the younger kids. When they get a little older, I have another breathing exercise called Follow the Fox, where you breathe in when the fox goes up, you breathe down. And I'm always just trying to introduce new gardening tools that are rooted in deep breathing exercises that just look different, because it's just how important it is. You can trace your hand, breathe in, with your thumb, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. There's just so many quick little breathing tools, and it's so empowering, and you can forget to do it. So it's really important to just remember, take a breath.
Yeah. So I had one significant injury in my athletic career. I broke my left leg when I was 15. And I still, it was a soccer game. It was a strange thing, but I remember laying on the field, and like I literally shattered the top half of my shin. They had to put 5 screws in it once they put it back together. It was a freak deal. But I remember the trainer telling me to breathe. Like I would hold my breath from the pain, and she had to keep telling me, breathe, you need to breathe. I can still I can look up and see the sun while I was laying there as I'm telling as I'm telling the story right now. It's such a
Yeah.
powerful thing, you know?
It is. And
Yep.
gratitude. I always come back to that gratitude. There's just so many ways to incorporate gratitude exercises in our daily lives. Whether it's, you do it when you first wake up, you do it before you go to bed, you do it when you're stressed. That I think is one of the most powerful tools. And the more we can replace those negative thoughts, those weedy thoughts with grateful thoughts, and even on our most challenging days, and there are always things to be grateful for. I mean, even if it's just breathing in and out or something to look forward to, or a roof over your head, clean water, you can start there and then grow. But uh, it's a very, very powerful tool.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I use I'm very fortunate. My wife and I met like at exactly the right time. We were young, we were very young. We were 21 and 19 when we got married, and we'll be celebrating our 32nd anniversary next week. And I always tell people I would never ever get married again, but not for the reason most people think. Um, I'm on house money at this point because most people never get a relationship like the one I've been fortunate enough to be a part of. And I've gotten it for we've been together 33 years. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if I lose the rest of the hands that I'm playing, I'm walking out of the casino money ahead. And
Right.
I just would never, if something happened to my wife, that'd be the only reason if she wasn't around anymore that I would be single. But I would never want to compare. I wouldn't want to force that on someone. Like it's just so good. I don't think I could recreate it. I'm just
Yeah.
so lucky
Yeah.
to have met my wife and been able to share my life with her. And when things, like you had talked about, you were the COO and still act as a COO for the boutique. I am the CEO of a company that owns and operates grocery stores, and a lot of shit goes wrong at grocery stores. The refrigeration goes down, people steal. Sometimes people try to come in and rob money from the store. People slip and
Yeah.
fall. It's not always fun. It's not always rainbows and unicorns. But when I'm having a particularly rough day, I will tell myself, man, just think about it though. You get to go home and be with your wife. That's awesome. Like I've got it so good. I don't care about the rest of it. Like I've got it so good that
Yeah.
that's kind of the center for me. Um, and I'm with you. If you can encourage people to find something, doesn't matter
Yeah.
what it is, find something
Yeah.
every day to be grateful for.
Absolutely. It's that shift in perspective. Exactly what you're saying. It's just things could be just going all wrong all around you. And if you just take that deep breath, go back to gratitude, center yourself, that's so powerful.
Do you have gratitude exercises? Do you suggest people
Um,
write them down?
yeah.
Do they talk to people? Like,
I mean,
what do you suggest?
like we were just discussing with the breathing exercises on our blog, we have so many different gratitude exercises, activities. For starters, you could have a gratitude journal. That's, I think, a great thing to do. You can just return to your journal, write down something you're grateful for, write down one thing that happened that was positive as it comes to you, and you can just fill that gratitude journal up. For kids, sometimes you can have a little gratitude jar and maybe cut out little flower shapes, and then you would write down some things you're grateful for. And then when you're going through the weeds, you're growing through something, you can pull out your jar, read your flower, and take a minute and kind of be grateful for that. Do it in your mind. You can do like a gratitude board where you can have pictures or things that you connect with that you feel grateful for. Pop it on your refrigerator, put it on the mirror in your bathroom. You can write on the mirror in your bathroom. So many different things you can do. Beautiful. I mean, gratitude it just consistency is key with everything we do. So being
Sure.
consistent. Yeah.
Sounds like the most important part is just to do something that works for you
Mm-hmm.
that allows you to understand and really think about and express your gratitude.
Right. I mean, and you were saying in the beginning, action, purpose. This is all it's encompassing in everything we're doing. And for you, you say action. I would say action, intention, and integrity. I think those three go hand in hand. They're all rooted together. And in my new book that will be coming out hopefully in the fall, maybe by the time this airs, there's a chapter rooted in action and intention and integrity, and really trying to get to your purpose and your passion. And as gardeners, I'm such a believer in planting our dreams and watching them grow. And the world we live in is very busy. It's very fast paced. There seems to be a plan for kids before they're even born. This is what you do. This is how you do it. And as a gardener, I'm trying to say, wait, try not to listen to everything, and clear out the noise and listen to yourself. What do I really like? What am I good at? What am I interested in? What am I curious about? What can I explore? I just, for gardeners, keep listening to that. That is unique to you. We are all born with beautiful gifts unique to ourselves that are genuinely going to help make this world a brighter place. I believe that with my whole heart. And so, really digging into your passions and your purpose and empowering kids at a young age to do that would be really, really special to see in the next few years. So, that positive change that I think is already starting to happen. I think so many things like this are going to just lead to a beautiful, glowing generation of really confident, empowered gardeners.
Yeah, that's such a great message. I find it so interesting because I'm very logical and very fact-based. That's how my mind processes things best. So I like evidence.
Yeah.
And if you look at this will sound grim, but it's actually not grim.
Okay.
When you look at people at the end of their life, there's been studies and research and all sorts of empirical evidence that people that work in palliative care, hospice, those types of things that are around lots of people in their final moments and people
Right.
that know they're in their final moments,
Hmm.
they literally never regret things they did. What they
Yeah.
always regret at the end of their life is things they did not do or
Yeah.
didn't have the courage to do. I wish I would have told my relatives more often that I cared about them. I wish I would have had the courage to quit my job as X and become
Yeah.
Y because I loved Y and I never gave myself a chance. And so, like you're talking about, with intention and action, and I'm sorry, what was the third word?
Integrity.
Integrity.
Yeah.
Um, you've got to take your shots. Like you've got to, if you want to live a life of purpose and something that gives you true, I don't know if happiness is the right word, satisfaction, clarity, a reason for existing, you have to do
Yeah.
those things. Like they're just so important, and you'll regret them if you don't do them. You're not going to regret them if you do them and they go sideways, but you will
Right.
regret them if you never try.
Yeah. You have to. You have to dig in and really take notice on what is good for you, and that is hard to do. And
Mm.
I've uncovered so much of what I really enjoy and what I really want to do and my passion and my purpose in the last few years just through this process. But when I was younger, I mean, none of this information was really available. I mean, my father was a coach and a teacher, so I always admired him in that leadership role. My mother was very nurturing, and we're always cooking and crafting and baking. So I think that kind of comes together in what I'm doing now as like a leader and a nurturer and finding that balance. But all the while we weren't talking about how are you feeling and emotions and coping skills. And as I get older and I realize how valuable they are, and I am educating younger kids and seeing how empowering it is when young children are connecting with these gardening tools, there is my hope, and what you're saying is no regrets. It's live that life, find your passion, dig into your purpose, spread your seeds, be kind to yourself, be kind to other people, lead by example, and just keep growing till the end. Just keep growing.
Mm. Totally love it. Let's talk a little bit about the weeds.
Yeah.
How do you coach, teach, educate parents on how to have those conversations or start understanding what weeds are in their kids' gardens?
Yeah. So I think identification is very important, and weeds have all sorts of names: jealousy, fear, loneliness, left out, being insecure. I mean, weeds, there's all sorts of weeds. I mean, when we do assemblies, we're like, let's think of all the words for weeds. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So educating parents and families and caregivers on how important it is to identify those weeds. What do they look like? And having conversations about encounters and experiences, you can help children label what those weeds are, and you can kind of grow through them. And so many weeds are rooted in fear, I have to say. I mean, jealousy is fear, fear of being rejected, or sadness. There's just a lot of it comes back to being afraid. And I think so much of what we can help children with and what we can help ourselves with is becoming fearless, learning to fear less, not being fearless, but
Mm.
fearless. And that's a very important rule of gardening how am I feeling? And a lot of those weeds are rooted in fear. So trying to get back to that calm, creative, confident state, whatever it is so, so important.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Um, if I'm a parent, do I just sit down? How do I start my kids on this program? Like what
So
would be an icebreaker conversation?
I would just straight up say, we're all gardeners. We all have a garden emotions growing inside of us, all ages, no matter who we are, where we are, our culture, our background, our preference, whatever it is, we are all gardeners. We are all equal in that place. And we all have a garden of emotions growing inside of us. And in that garden are our weeds, and those are our stress, our worries, and our challenges. And I would give some example like sad, scared, mad. And our flowers are joy and gratitude, the things that make us feel good, baking cookies, snuggling, going on vacation, getting a good grade on a test. And then I would give those solid examples. And as gardeners, in order to pull our weeds, is talking about it is the most important thing we can do. So parents and family caregivers really underlying how important it is to talk about our weeds. It's so powerful. And having those conversations every day, how's it growing, how to grow at school today, how to grow at practice today, and getting kids to talk and having them feel comfortable talking. That is, the younger we can do it and the quicker you can do it. It doesn't have to be long drawn out conversations. It'd be something so simple. Something happened at school, it scared me, and just saying that would have scared me too, and I appreciate what you're feeling and thanks for sharing. Just putting it out there sometimes is setting it free and pulling the weed. So having those gentle conversations every day if you can, especially when kids are younger, having them get comfortable with conversations and introducing healthy gardening tools in your house. And it's knowing what tools work for your kids. And my son loves puzzles and Legos. That would not be for my daughter at all. She loves cooking and baking and getting her hands really involved in tasting and using her senses. So he's a little more practical, and she's a little more loose with some of the things. But then we all like making vision boards together, or we all have little goal journals. It's finding those tools that work for you and introducing them into your home. So I think that's really helpful. And then a lot of what we do also, we push these ideas into schools too. So I have a whole curriculum which kind of helps teachers build it into the classroom on a yearly basis. So we have access to that too. So it's just consistency is key, and being a gardener is being aware of those emotions every day. It's growing through them, it's talking about them, it's using your gardening tools. And we can support that through our website, with our blog, through our newsletter every Friday, through our assemblies, with my new book that's coming out. We have some really big dreams that we've planted for the next couple of years that we are going to really work hard to cultivate, so we can reach more gardeners. We can reach a much wider audience of gardeners. It is the time. This is so important. It really, really is. And yes, it starts with children, but it really does start with ourselves. I used to think that changing the future meant changing the children. When I started this program, it was like, let's work through the children to get the change. And now I'm really understanding it's me, it's you, it's ourselves. It's being grounded and feeling good and trying to be the best version of ourselves. And the more we accept ourselves, the more confident we feel. We can do such wonderful things. We can just be so more connected. There can be so much more unity.
Yeah. I love that. I want to talk more about the the upcoming stuff that you just brought up.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I started the podcast is because I started at Target largely young men. It's changed a lot since what we set out, which is great. Zero issues
Hmm.
there. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of stuff on social media, and I think social media can have a really negative impact, especially on
Hmm.
young people, because like you've talked about multiple times in our conversation, they haven't developed coping mechanisms to go, hey, that whatever that I just saw on social media isn't real, and or even if it is real, it doesn't impact me in any actual way unless I allow
Right.
it. So, do you have any specific conversations around the impact of social media on kids? I'd be curious just to hear how you deal with that particular subject in your program.
I think that's a huge challenge. I do. And I think getting kids and adults even to disconnect is a really big thing. And like you said, what's real, what's not real. It's getting even harder to determine. Everything's becoming very blurred. Uh, I don't have a real solution to that. I could give you a list of gardening tools that I would say, hey, instead of scrolling, do this. There are even like great apps you can download on your phone that when you're going to start doing unhealthy scrolling, switch over to an app and learn something fun or do something delightful. But I think social media is a really dark place, and I think there are a lot of people out there like yourself and like what we're trying to do and put really positive content out there that's empowering is really important. So I know that Fred Rogers always used to say, look for the helpers. There are helpers out there. There are so many helpers, and you can somewhat control your algorithms and say, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. I did do this exercise recently, and it is really interesting because I think social media sometimes will show you an ad that's playing off your insecurity. I mean, that happens more cases than not,
Mm.
and you'll see an ad for this thing, you'll see an ad for that. So I just was playing around with it and I was like, I don't like that. Nope, you're showing me too much like that. That's offensive to me. And then I started unfollowing content that made me feel fearful or uncomfortable, or even friends that I felt were posting things that were rooted more in fear or spreading bad seeds, I guess, or negative seeds. I think you can control it a little bit. It's not perfect, but it is a really powerful exercise. But if you're on social media a lot, it can be a very weedy place. You got to try and disconnect as much as you can.
Yeah, I think that's for me personally, that's my biggest challenge with it is it's a fantasy world.
Yeah.
And any more than I would suggest you live your life according to Star Wars or Frozen or some other medium, you cannot live. The social media world is not real. What people do is post their highlight. Like I love the day in the life videos of these so-called influencers, right? So
Yeah.
it shows the 5:30, it shows them waking up in bed. Yeah, I don't wake up with someone having a camera on me and lighting in my
Yeah.
bedroom. Cut the
Right.
shit. It's not
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
don't you just post a list of what you do and then we'll get it from there?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff just drives me insane. We're all about genuineness on Salty Ginger Talk. That's it's very funny to me because I have lots of different acquaintances from lots of different perspectives in life, and I get along with
Yeah.
all of them because they're real. I can respect whatever it is you think so long as it's real and you're not actually hurting someone while you're doing it, right? So,
Yeah.
I think we got to get back to that, just this person to person connection and stop making one single thing the end all be all, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's whatever. Like, my theory is everybody, and I think this fits perfectly with the way your program operates. Nobody's all good or all bad. Nobody is
No.
all good or all bad. I can find plenty of really virtuous people who have done some terrible things in their life. And I can
Right.
find some people who've done some really terrible things in their life who've done some pretty virtuous things too.
Right.
And we don't give people the opportunity to kind of expose the entire spectrum of how they approach the world and give them a chance, you know? And I think social media exacerbates that. I think that's my big problem with it.
Yeah. I agree. And disconnect as much as you can, and that's really hard, but We're trying to find ways to connect right now when we talk about cultivating some really powerful things. Hopefully, in the next, in the near future, is tapping into some really creative content that's a little new and different, that's rooted in something really positive and really powerful, and getting it out there. And maybe that'll inspire other people to kind of do something similar. I mean, there's plenty of room for all of us to do powerful, positive things. So
Mm,
I think the more we can create genuine, authentic, helpful, hopeful, positive, creative content, at least we're doing our part. We're taking action. We're doing something to be the change that we want to see. And that is definitely change I want to see. And I also really feel very inspired to help people dig into their passion and their purpose. And I think that by clearing out some of the noise like social media and the distractions, and a lot of that causes so many unnecessary weeds, just that mindless scrolling, you're seeing some really fearful information that's rooted in something that may not even be factual, and you're just constantly scaring yourself or putting yourself in a fearful mindset. And we need to stop that process if we can.
yeah. Yeah, totally agree. So let's pivot back to the stuff you're doing now. So talk a little bit about the different ways that you interact with, I don't know if you call them followers. I don't know if you call them customers. I don't know what you call the folks who participate in your program, but how do people interact with you? I know you've talked about assemblies. What do the school assemblies look like?
So the school assemblies will come in, and we'll either do one assembly, we'll do multiple assemblies. It's all a wonderful experience. It's all powerful. It's all positive. And at this point, I would say I've probably connected with over 30,000 kids at this point, I would say.
Wow.
So
Ah,
it's been really awesome. And connecting with the students, you're working with the counselors, you're working with the teachers, you're working with the PTO. And the beautiful thing is when I'm introducing it to the students, the teachers, the families, they're taking the information in for themselves. So then I'll get the feedback from the teachers. This is really helpful. Can I have more content? And so I really communicate heavily through my Weeds to Seeds newsletter that comes out every Friday. Thousands of people on my list, and we communicate that way. And I'm always just trying to put out content. Is this helpful for teachers? Is this helpful for a parent? Is this helpful for just an adult who's growing through something? So I communicate through that. I want to be better at social media, but I don't enjoy going on social media for the reasons we just discussed. So it's it's a conundrum for me. So at some point, I would love to connect with a gardener who is very passionate about social media. I can reward them financially for being passionate about social media, because I know people hang out there a lot. I try not to hang out there a lot because I'm trying to embrace that fearless mindset, and I find that social media, it does the opposite. So, but just trying to connect with people through that. I do some speaking events locally. I'll do some community events. We're always trying to get out there in the community and set up at some street fairs just to reach people, make the connections. I love getting out there and just meeting people, shaking hands, telling our story, connecting. There's so many talented people out there who just want to do wonderful things. So yeah, that's how we're growing. And then I have my new book coming out this fall, so that'll be exciting. And like I said, that's the grown up edition. And I think that's when I wrote "You Are a Gardener" for my kids. Necessity was the mother of invention. That's what this the grown up edition of "You Are a Gardener" is. So I've just had so many teachers, parents say, that was really helpful for the kids, but that really helped me too. And I was really growing through something, and that really resonated with me. And I just know from my own journey with gardening and all the tools that I've accumulated and explored over the years, how powerful that's been for me and how helpful that's been for me. And not that this is about me at all. That's not what the book is for. It's kind of just spreading some really positive, empowering seeds to a wider audience.
sure. No, that's great. And so obviously you've got the children's book now. We'll
Yeah.
have that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, even if it doesn't make it before we publish your episode, I'd appreciate if you could send me the link to the adult version when it comes out so we can put
Yeah.
it into the show notes so our listeners don't have to go looking for it.
I really hope
Um,
so. Based on when you said this show would air, I really do think I'll have it by then. So my goal
Yeah.
was to have it by then. So, I'm on track right now. So that'll be a good thing.
No pressure. We'll take it when we can get it. No
Okay.
pressure.
It would be good time.
Um, do you travel for these assemblies? Do you do them via Zoom, or how do you do assemblies?
I travel. So right now we are in the tri-state area. So I mean, we will travel. I mean, we were down in Atlantic City a lot this year. We have a couple Atlantic City, have a couple schools that we're going to be working with in Staten Island next year. I mean, it's coming together, but I would travel anywhere. It just seems that I get a lot of interest from tri-state areas. So, but I would go anywhere.
Got it. So folks could, if they're interested, folks could go to your website and contact you and just say, "Hey, here's my
Tons of
situation.
information
Let's
on the
talk
web.
about it."
Yeah, absolutely. Tons of information on assemblies on the website. We also have in our blog school spotlights. So we'll shine a spotlight on a lot of the schools we work with and put the feedback from the teachers and our experience at the school. So those are kind of fun ways to see a little bit more about what's going on with our school programs. So, and every year we just kind of fine tune it a little bit. We're like, this worked really well last year. We could improve this, or we'll add a little more animation here. I can say that over the years, as we have presented our assembly, the attention span of students has gone down a little bit. So, and I noticed that towards the end of last school year, where certain segments that always landed were just getting a little lengthy. So we're always paying attention to that. How can we shorten that? How can maybe we add something a little more delightful there? So the presentation that I use is very interactive and has our fox and our colors and our branding. So we'll just fine tune it, just add a little more animation to kind of keep kids more engaged. I think that that's really helpful with some of our content.
I think it's that damn social media that's hurting everyone's attention span.
It really is. It's those YouTube shorts. So you can't beat them, join them. That's what I'm working on, trying to figure out that positive content to join in and, inspire people, help people.
Yeah, and look, I'm not actually anti social media, but I am anti social media playing an outsized role
Yeah.
in anybody's life. There's lots of positives to social media. I love, I'm 53 now, and so it occurred to me, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago that shit, I'm not actually going to live forever like I thought I was going to. This is all going to come to an end at some point. And I love being able to see like people I grew up with and people I've known my whole life.
Yeah.
Everybody's scattered and lived their own lives. I love being able to see what they have going on and their kids and their grandkids. And like that part's awesome. I love that part of it.
Yeah.
But I could do without the negativity. And like the whole reason we started this podcast is I saw these idiots that were telling men how to be men, which was essentially, belittle women. And I'm like, no, that's not how any of this works. That's completely wrong. And
Yeah.
you can be a good man without, in fact, I would say it's the opposite. A good
Yeah.
man will raise everyone around them, especially the women, and empower
Right.
them to live the lives that they want to live. And I just see too much of that on social media. It just really rubs me the wrong way. And so that's why we do what we do, and like maybe this will turn into, maybe Salty Ginger Talk will turn into something down the road, but that's not at all why I do it. I've
Right.
already got a full-time gig. I already run a business.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but I think
Oh,
if
yeah.
enough, yeah, I think if enough of us do the things we're doing, I love that yours is turning into and has turned into a business, and you can really help people and do something you're really passionate about. That part is just awesome. But so yeah, but on that note, share without naming names or doing anything crazy. Share like one of your favorite stories or favorite encounters that you've had as you've put this together.
Oh, wow.
You don't have to.
Well,
I'm not saying your favorite. Just pick one that resonates with you.
so every year we travel to Nantucket, and Fred Rogers had a family cottage in Nantucket that's been vacant, but it's still there. It's called the Crooked House. It's tucked away at the corner of Nantucket and Sconset. And every year and he's, what Fred Rogers did for children, for teachers, for families, it's all rooted in that emotional empowerment, that communication, the identification, the feeling accepted and unity. There's such a connection there that I've always felt with his work. But so when we had the first copy of You Are a Gardener that summer, we drove down to his house and we took a photo of the kids holding the book in front of the house. It was a beautiful moment for our family. And so we started doing that every year. And every year we take a picture, and it's not just to see how much they've grown, it's how much we've grown, how much more we've connected with. And there's just something really special about that moment because it embodies everything. How it's that's like our mile marker for the year. What have we done this year? Who have we connected with? How many students have we connected with? How can we grow? Look at how far we've grown. What else can we do? And there's something about that moment that just ties it all in for me. That's one of my favorite. I don't know. I don't know what we would call it, but it's a beautiful moment in time for us. So
Yeah, that is awesome. I love that. That sounds so cool. What has been the biggest surprise to you through this whole process? What surfaced or what did you encounter that like you're like, wow, I never expected that.
myself, myself. That has been the most surprising part of this whole process is how much I've grown, how differently I see myself, how differently I see the world, how much I realize my passions, my purpose, and how much more I have to grow. And how I said earlier, just keep growing and growing and growing. This has changed my life. This has changed my family's life. And I can see and feel the ripple of how that change is moving outward in myself, my family, my friends, my colleagues, the students I connect with. I can feel my ripple, and I'm very honored and grateful that this information has helped me, but that hopefully I can help other people with it. I feel very, very empowered by that. So that has been the most surprising thing is what I thought was something I was creating for my children, I've really taken it on for myself.
Cool. That's so interesting. Yeah, and it's funny because I can't remember who said it, but there's a saying that says if you really want to learn something, teach it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And you just kind of underscored that with your comments there. It's so true. Like, Albert Einstein also said if you can't explain something to make it make sense to a 5-year-old, then you don't actually understand it yourself, you
True.
know? And that's what I love about what you're doing is that it starts at such a young age. And, again, you've talked about how this kind of happened. I don't know if by accident is the right way to say it, but you were looking for a solution and you came up with a solution. Necessity is the mother of invention,
Yes.
like you said. But so much of a person's view of the world and personality is formed before they're 8 years old, right? Be 7 and
Right.
below.
Yeah.
That's such an impactful time in kids' lives. Um, how much of that I'm trying to think of the right way to ask the question, but how do you think, I guess, what's the best approach for parents knowing that the first 7 years are the most impressionable? How should they approach this? When should they start this? Like what's the advice there?
Um, well, in thinking about that in my own life and knowing what I was feeling at that time and looking back on it now, this was all in there. All this interest and the passion and the talents and the curiosity, it was all there. And maybe thinking about it, if you're an adult and thinking about that for yourself and then making that connection to the children around you, whether they're your own children or they're your students or you're caring for children, and trying to see the world through your younger self can be very helpful. And starting at any time. You're never too old to start gardening and you're never too young to start gardening. Just developing those gardening tools and you're cultivating your emotional health and emotional empowerment is now for anyone, anywhere, for gardeners of all ages. It's now. It's taking the time. It's digging in and knowing what feels good to you, what doesn't feel good to you, what stresses you out, what do you feel grateful for, what makes you feel confident, what makes you feel calm, what makes you feel creative. I never really knew how much I enjoyed cooking until we started this blog and started making recipes and trying new recipes. And I found that when I'm in the kitchen and I'm trying new things, I feel creative. I feel confident. I feel it's empowering. That might not, somebody else might be like, absolutely not. That sounds really stressful, but you have to find those tools, and introducing children at any age to those tools. We're all doing the same thing. It's all the same thing, whether you're making something small with a child or you're making a big recipe as an adult. It's all creating. Like I said, vision boards. It's journaling. With a 3-year-old, you could be drawing pictures of something you're grateful for, and it could be a squiggle, but they'll say, "Oh, that's my grandma," and just it's always the right time to start gardening. And that's what our website's there for. There's tons and tons of tools. There's tons of information on our blog. There's information on our assemblies. There's just all our content out there right now is totally free, where it's helpful, it's hopeful, and it's just all rooted in emotional empowerment for gardeners of all ages.
I love that. Absolutely love it. So one of the things I do on the podcast, I feel like I ask pretty good questions. We cover a lot of territory, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't want to miss something just because I'm a dummy. And so I always just kind of open it up for our guests. Is there anything I haven't asked you that's important for us to talk about? Or is there a subject we haven't talked about that you feel strongly about that we should talk about while we're here in front of the audience?
Um, we touched on it a little bit, but there is a chapter in my new book that's rooted in self. And I know we were talking a lot about self, but when I say self, it's self confidence, self compassion, self love, self respect, and really stepping back and recognizing how you respond to each of those is so important right now for all of us. And I think that the more empowered we are on knowing how to dig into our self confidence, how to have positive self talk in our mind. I mean, we can be really negative to ourselves, and replacing those negative thoughts with positive words and really honing in on ourselves is really important right now for all of us, for all ages. So I know we covered it a little bit, but just staying rooted in self is so important. And I do see that positive change happening. And when I say that positive change, I think just people feeling better, people feeling more confident, people feeling more hopeful, people feeling more united. We need to come together. We are all gardeners, and that's what I'm trying to say. It's and everything on my platform is accepting of all. That's I try so hard with the content to be really careful with word choice and not excluding anything. I want everything in unity. I don't even like the word inclusivity anymore. It's really unity. How are we uniting everybody under one thing? So I'm calling it gardener. Somebody else might have a wonderful new name for it too, but it's really rooted in unity. And unity starts with yourself.
I love that. So I was on a flight earlier today, and this just popped into my head while you were talking about it. I happened to sit next to a pilot who was flying to get to his next, route. And the flight attendant walked by before the flight took off, and she poked me in the shoulder and said, "Hey, if it happens, put your oxygen mask on before you put his on." She was joking around with him. But like what you just said is the real life version of you can't help anyone else if you don't take care of yourself first. And I can tell you from personal experience, I suck at that sometimes. And I always say I don't throw stones because I live in a glass house. It's not my place to judge anybody. It's not my place to say your actions are right or wrong. I don't know the set of circumstances that led you to make the decisions that you make. So it's certainly not my place to tell you to assess some type of value judgment on them. But I do know that if you are not in a good mental space, if you're not in a good physical space, if you're not in a good emotional space, you're not going to be useful to other people. So you got to take care of that first. So I just absolutely love that you brought that up to focus on it. Such a valuable point.
There's a beautiful way to view it. I totally agree. Put your oxygen mask on first. Love yourself first. Respect yourself first. Positive self-talk first. It's you have to start here. Have to love yourself. You have to wake up every morning, say, "Good morning, self. I love you. I love you. I'm feeling confident. I'm creative." Just start rooting for yourself. Really. Be your own best cheerleader. Root for yourself.
Exactly. Exactly right. Well, Shanna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I absolutely loved our conversation. I was right to be excited about it. Did not disappoint. It was worth the wait. And we'll just keep in touch with you because you've got a bunch of stuff going on, and maybe somewhere down the road we can revisit the new things that you're working on and some of the new offerings. We'd love to have you back on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was fun. You asked wonderful questions, and it's exciting to see where it grows. So I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, for sure. And so, guys, just before we let Shanna go, so you are a gardener. There's a kid's book. By the time this episode airs, likely the adult version of the book. We'll have the website. We'll have anything you need to get in touch with Shanna and start to learn some of these tools and techniques and experience these programs. So you don't have to look far for them. And like we said, we'll have Shanna back on somewhere in the future and wish her continued success and just keep doing a great job. Not a coincidence, by the way. You heard us talk about this a lot. It's not a coincidence that her life is going really well because she's focused on helping other people. Those two things are almost always connected. So keep doing what you're doing, Shannon. You're doing a great job. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay.
Okay. We're good to go.
Well,
Great
thank you
job.
for helping me spread some seeds. I'm very grateful.
No, us too. Yeah, absolutely love it. I love your approach. You're so good at presenting it, and you have such a positive energy about it. I think that really resonates with our audience because I can be kind of a direct hard ass sometimes. So it's good for a different approach and a different message and a different delivery. So I
Yeah.
absolutely love
I love
having
the
people.
balance of
Yeah,
it. I love the balance of it. I thought it was perfect. So, well, very, very
me
wonderful.
too.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
All right.
good
Happy
job.
anniversary. Congratulations on the upcoming wedding.
Yeah,
And
thanks. It's August of next year, so we've got a year of I like this
oh,
color.
on
No, I
your,
like this color.
it's going to be on your anniversary.
No, I don't. I think it never even occurred to me. It's about a week before our anniversary. I think it's
Okay.
like August 7th or something like that.
Okay. There you go. Okay. Well, that's
We got
exciting.
married on the 13th because it was a Friday the 13th when we got married
Oh,
32 years ago, and
it's lucky.
nobody wanted to get married, so the church was insanely cheap. I'm like,
Yeah.
13 is my lucky number. I'm marrying her. Let's do it.
Perfect. And now look at you. I love it. It was a beautiful thing you said about your wife too. I hope does she listen to all your episodes?
Not really. She listens to some of them, but yeah, look, it's not luck that we've been together for 32 years. So we try to, I genuinely care about her and she genuinely cares about me. And if you start there and just try to show that every day, that's
It's the
it. Like
support.
that's all it
The
takes.
support. My
Yeah,
husband, I met my husband when I was 19 and he was 20, but it's all about supporting each other and who we are and not, letting each other blossom and giving each other that room to grow and not trying to change people, but inspire. It takes a lot of work though. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. For me, for you, it's worth it. It's worth the work.
totally agree.
I
Yes,
would
couldn't
never
agree
do it
more.
again either. I would never do it again. Never, never, never. For the
I'm
same
not
reason,
going back.
same reason. Definitely. I connected with that, but I was like, I'm just going to let you say it. But I will say that too.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again. We'll be back in touch with all the
Right?
PR stuff and make sure you get us the information on the new. Hopefully, it works. Even
Yeah.
if, like I said, even if your book comes out after, please
Yeah.
get us the information. We'll update the show
Right.
notes when we get
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
sure.
Cool. All right.
All right. Have a
Have a
great
nice evening.
week.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Shanna.
Bye.
Bye bye. Okay, guys, there you go. So clearly, we did not oversell Shanna. What a neat lady. Love the approach she's taken here. Love that she's so focused on helping people, starting with kids. And like you heard her talk about, they've updated the program. We are all gardeners, or you are a gardener, to target adults as well. And so all of that information is available down in the show notes. James does a great job of making sure our show notes are crisp and clean and have all the information you need to track down the topics and if you want to, the clients or the podcast guests we have that take on clients or do work with people. And so make sure you check that out. Really appreciate Shanna coming on. We'll stay in touch with her, and as the programs that she's working on now come to fruition, we'll have her back on and we'll talk about those as well. Loved having her on the podcast. So James puts it up over here every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All our podcast episodes are available there. We've got links to all the social media accounts available there. We have a newsletter we publish every weekday. You can subscribe to on our website. And we need you to like, share, comment, subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. Super helpful for us. We're seeing our followers and our subscribers grow exponentially, thousands and thousands now, which is great. Always want more people in the Salty Ginger Talk universe. So please join us as a subscriber. We're going to keep finding awesome people. We're going to keep bringing them on and giving you lots of ways to build the life that you want. You don't want to miss any of our great guests. You don't want to miss any of the great tips and tools and methods that they have developed to help you. Make sure you catch our next episode. We will see you there.